the USFL Gambling Podcast, the XFL Gambling Podcast, and the Alt Fantasy Gambling Podcast. XFL USFL potential merger episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now. Use the promo code SGP, and new customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on football. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the promo code SGP. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Snag the tickets without the stress. Use the promo code CFBX on your first purchase to save $20. Download the Game Time app and use that promo code CFBX. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes, play the Underdog Pick'em in college or NFL and win up to 20 times the amount of money you enter in one game. Use the promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for 100% deposit bonus up to $100. And finally, we're brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use the promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. And remember, as always, folks, too, let it ride.
Is this or is this not the XFL? Yes, it is. Do I not currently have a pulse? Yes, I do. Let's play football.
Football is a unique American experience. A game described by one turn-of-the-century critic as crude and barbaric, with little chance of survival. But survive it did.
I don't give a damn who you are. This is America, Jack. You know how to play high-dose football? I don't get it.
Being played in the United States Football League.
We sometimes forget that football, being a consummate team sport, is a great deal more successful when you do play as a unit and don't rely on individual talent. Frankly, I'm impressed with the USFL.
America, this league is good for America, and football is a sport that is made for television.
That is football.
I'm like, spring football is going to work in America.
You play to win the game. And now it is time for our USFL report.
Whoa. Hello. Welcome, folks, to just a slew of we had three different podcasts merging together like we're on the 405 freeway.
The mega cast.
The mega
ESPN doesn't own it, Colby. SGPN does.
That is right. SGPN does own it. So we're combining the Alt Fantasy Podcast, the USFL Gambling Podcast, the XFL Gambling Podcast, and we are here. I know, look, you're not used to hearing us talking in mid-September, but we have some reports that we could be close to a merger. Look, I'm going to introduce ourselves first. If you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, my name is Colby Swinging Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
Nobody knows nothing. Somebody knows. Double the price, but no one touches Dundee.
I mean, this is unbelievable. This is, I don't know. It's not final yet, but we have to talk about it. That's why we welcome.
It's sounding final.
Yes.
It's sounding final, Colby.
It's sounding fun. Sources saying, yes, that this could be some huge news. I am joined by, this guy. I know he's the managing editor for SGPN, and that is a nice title to have. But at the same time, I identify with this guy because we're guys that could probably be watching, football in Tokyo and be perfectly happy with it.
Because the X League this weekend. You're not rocking your World Football League
there we
jersey
go. There
of
we
the
go.
Original Charlotte Hornets. Come on,
that's
Colby.
fucking awesome. That is fantastic.
God, this was a great purchase. Shout out to Royal Retros. Royal Retros, if you're listening, we want to talk sponsorship for the spring this year.
There we go. The WFL, the OG WFL. I give you Adam Pelletier. How you doing, brother?
Colby, I could not be better. Dreams come true, kids. If you think it can happen. We've been dreaming about an XFL, USFL, at least them playing a game together, and we're going to get a whole merger out of this sucker. And just Twitter's a X, whatever you want to call it. The social media sphere is a buzz. About an hour ago, someone who's linked into the USFL union said that it's going to be a straight merger. 16 teams, Colby. All 16 teams staying, baby.
Whoa. We got so much to talk about.
Oh my God. I'm so excited. I've been so excited all day. I had to work late and I can't focus on the day job because I'm just so excited thinking about everything and all the possibilities. So this is my dream. I'm so happy. I couldn't be happier right now.
Hold on, let's walk the listener through this. So, here we are, Tuesday, September 19th. We wake up, for me on the West, I don't know about you. I wake up to this news, top tagged in like 30 articles of like, hey, they're talking potential merger, and a lot of people I think thought that I'd be pissed. Not necessarily. I enjoyed both leagues for what they were. Now, there were certain kinks about each league that I wish we had different, but I know it's never going to be completely perfect to what Pick Dundee fucking wants, but
it's not going to be a no forward pass league in the mud, played only in rain. You're not allowed to play on a sunny day.
We should take a hose to the field. We would do that as a kid. We would take the hose to the field for a little 45 minutes before the game, so you get a little slippery. But yes, it's never going to be that. I understand. But hold on. So same with you situation. I know you're on the East Coast, so you probably got that news while you were out and about. Perhaps
I'm working the day job, and I see it come, and I see Twitter starting to light up, and I'm like, I haven't seen these accounts tweet in a while. And so then I go to my spring football account, and I'm like, oh God, it's happening. It is happening. So then I start texting people, having some conversations with them folks. Some with folks where it's just pure speculation, some with folks in the know. And it's been going on for a while. The talks didn't start today. The talks did not start today, is what I've gathered. And I don't think this is going to be a CFL XFL merger talk that piddles out. This sounds like it's got staying power and it's going to go the distance.
Here's where there's so many questions I have. And I'm excited about that thought too. But I have so many questions. We saw Redbird Capital, which owns the XFL, lay off a ton of people, and they announced that they were like 30 million in debt, if memory serves me correct. Like this was probably in July or something. I don't know.
Well, so hold on. Let's just stop there for a second, because they spent 60 million last season. Okay. They spent $60 million and they put on 43 football games. So for the cost of slightly under $1.2 million a game, they put on a football league. That is that's impressive. Not like bargain basement pricing, but that's how we need to look at this. It's not they lost 60 million. It's they spent $60 million to put on 43 football games, which if you paid your players, you put it on major broadcasting networks, you had the start of a deal, you put fans in stadiums, and you traveled across the country for six of the teams traveled across the country every week, 6 to 8 of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another thing that, to the people that talk trash about that, I would like to see a company that started brand new that didn't lose money right away. You know what I mean? Like if you could look at any company, Netflix even lost money its first year. You know what I mean? Like you could go one by one, Tesla.
And Redbird doesn't have the ability to merge some of its assets and put some of the finances away like the USFL and Fox did. Just remember, the USFL is able to play its finances a little bit closer to the vest because it's a division of Fox Media. It's not something that's been invested in like Redbird, private equity capital group. There's some stringent reporting. So, that's where we don't know what the USFL cost in the first year, really, because we just kind of get some whittled down numbers. And at the end of the day, both these leagues paid all their players.
Yeah.
Okay. They paid their players. They paid their coaches. They paid all their bills on time. They were successful TV products. And when you look at it, that's good for the sport. And the XFL did it under more challenging circumstances where they had to follow up on a successful USFL season. And then they had to go head to head with March Madness and the USFL.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that those are reasons why the XFL lost money. The XFL did spend a bunch of money, but they put on 43 football games. They played a full and successful schedule.
And if I was to guess with anybody starting up these leagues, you have like probably a 3 or 4 year plan. I don't think you have just a 1 year plan because it would, like anything else, you're going to lose money in the first year. But look, I want to ask you some more questions about that. But first, I want to tell you folks out there that this episode is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, and we're back with another week of football. And DraftKings Sportsbook is keeping us in on all of the NFL and college football action with great offers for every single game day. New customers can bet $5, just $5, and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. So what are you doing? Throw $5 down on any of this week's epic matchups to walk away an instant winner. I had Real Money Kramer in the office saying, "You think my Giants can cover against the Niners on Thursday night?" And I said, "No, I don't." And, so look, there's one right there. $5 right there. All right. I also like Georgia State in college football. Get over there. Bet $5. All right. And look, DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every single game day this September. Football is more fun when you're in on the action. So download the app now and use the promo code SGP. New customers can bet just $5 once again and get $200 in bonus bets instantly only on the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official betting partner of the National Football League, with the promo code SGP. The crown is yours, people. Gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for detail and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be that stressful. I'm going to Laramie this weekend to catch a Wyoming Appalachian State football game. And I can tell you, one of the things I did is I pulled out my phone and used the old Game Time app because I didn't want that stress. All right. Game Time's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all things sports, music, comedy, theater, whatever that's near you, essentially. With killer deals on last minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you could stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you'll be having at that very event. And folks, let me tell you, the Game Time guarantee, that means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. That is a guarantee right there. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, terms apply. Create that account, CFBX, $20 off. Download the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, we are back on this special edition. Yeah, what's that?
I want to shout out SPHL Rando, which I assume is Southern Professional Hockey League. Shout out, baby. Go making mayhem. Was in the building for that championship dub. Yes, we do, as far as we know, technically the USFL didn't seem to lose money in year one. We don't actually know that for sure. This is what we're told, and they did save a lot of money by being in a hub without the travel. So yes, the USFL might have been able to do it for no loss, but we need to keep in mind they didn't. They played in one spot. Havoc fan. There we go. Let's go. Let's go. We knew it. Sports randos are all over it, baby. Let's go.
That's the question when I came into the office today, because this news broke while I was still at home. Stacking the money and Real Money Kramer were asking about, like, what do I know the backstory on this? And I'm like, and they're asking me, was XF, who was broke, who needed it more if this happens? And I was like, well, I can tell you this, there's a writer's strike going on right now, and live sports are at a super high, right? So because and look, I have friends in that work, writing on the Jon Stewart show and all this other stuff, that tell me they think the writer's strike is something that is probably going to go into next year. So I tend to believe that Fox,
Mr. Television Executive, Can I interest you in a program that averages a minimum of 500,000 viewers, no matter what channel you put it on? and
exactly
and involve zero writers. Could I interest you in this?
Exactly.
On the cheap? Maybe.
Exactly. So I am sure Fox might have also had that need. So, as much as we could say, well, we know Redbird Capital lost this money, right? And perhaps the USFL was fine in the future for Fox. Fox also has to worry about programming, right? And guess what? If you get 8 more teams in your league, which means you have 16 teams, that's more programming. And if you're in the middle of a writer's strike, we had Joe Theismann on the show. We asked about how he got affiliated with American Gladiators back in the 80s. And he said there was a writer's strike and they needed content. So they quickly just created this show called American Gladiators. That was such an iconic show for our childhoods. But anyway, in this scenario, they were asking me, do I think that USFL essentially is going to be buying XFL? And
so as far as I understand, everything I've said is it's a merger of equals. It's a 50-50 partnership. So in my mind, I think the thing that we're all looking past is, well, 8 + 8 is 16. And what's 16 times 2 get you to, Colby?
Oh, gets you to the NFL's number of teams, 32, right?
And the NFL coaches are starting to clamor for a minor league. So what if I told you, Colby, that I could build a league where an AFC team and an NFC team get to share one farm team and put players on exclusive contracts, and GMs will find some players too to play in that league. And now you have a place to develop your young talent. And all of a sudden you have a place to get your offensive linemen reps, those converted defensive linemen going to O-line, those big tight ends becoming offensive tackles. Those guys now have a place to go and get pro level coaching where you can control the scheme and get them high level game reps. And then you bring them and they chill on the practice squad.
And you mix that with the legalization of gambling and all the money that's going into the gambling companies, which I'm sure would be willing to throw a few bucks at some fans, betting on whatever league they're calling this. But
and now, the thing that we always ran into last year, how, it's like you try to get excited about betting or DFS or fantasy, and it's like DFS is brutal. Season-long fantasy is even more brutal. You got 8 teams worth of players. Now all of a sudden you have 16. This is manageable. You can have a 8-team league now with your friends. No problem. You can elevate that. You have more DFS plays to have. You're going to have more people interested. You're going to have more people watching, more people in stadiums, more markets involved. You just have an opportunity here to just like expand your reach so much.
Do you think also though, so the XFL has a deal through Disney. Do you think we would see something like, so Disney obviously suffering from the same thing Fox would be suffering from. There's no content being made. The actors are on strike. The writers are on strike. So they're in a desperate spot too. I mean, this has been going on for a little bit. It seems like it's going to be going on a little bit longer. So I wonder if that ties into it. Like you'll see whenever the XFL team is at home, is that game going to be on ABC/ESPN/Disney, ESPN Plus or whatever? And then when you're at the, Houston Gamblers, for example, is that game on Fox FS1 USA? I don't know, or NBC, because the NBC is still involved, I think, with USFL's deal. I'm not sure, but do you think that is something? Maybe I think they're both conscious of the strike, and maybe this is their an effort to try to create some content.
I mean, and also the way we watch football has changed. You don't just watch one game at a time anymore, unless it's a really good game. So you've never had the ability in the spring to have multiple games on at once. So now all of a sudden you're going to narrow this down to maybe like 6 broadcast windows, like 2 on Saturday or 3 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, 1 on Friday or something. And you're just going to roll with that. And you're going to have a lot better, or you're going to do like a Thursday, 2 on Saturday, 2 on, there's a million ways to split it, but you're going to narrow down the broadcast window, which means if there's a bad game, you're going to be able to watch something else instead of being stuck with a crappy game. How many games last year were you watching and you're just like, wow, this sucks.
Yeah.
Why am I watching this game?
Yeah. You're watching that Michigan Panther offense. They're down 30. You're like, this comeback ain't happening. It doesn't, their life could be on the line. They're not coming back from this. okay, so this is potentially huge news in my opinion, because you would have, there's so many questions I have.
I don't know that this is a Freedom Cup preview though, or is it?
I mean, it could. Oh shit, my bad. Freedom. It could be a Freedom Cup preview. There
it could
we go.
Be. It could be a Freedom Cup. It could.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many. I can't even wrap my head around all the possibilities of things.
Well, that's the first thing. My first thought was, I was like, if people know me, I don't like the XFL kickoff. I really don't. But there's certain rules in each league that I like and don't like. Now, here's what would be super. My whole life, if you grow up with baseball, you got the NL, the AL. The pitcher's batting in the NL. You got the designated hitter in the AL. Some people argue that for days, and that adds into perhaps some of the content that is baseball. I wonder if this could be. See, this is one where I would actually be on board. I would actually be on board.
I think this year that's what it's going to be. I don't think they're going to mess with the rules if they play at the same time. I think it's going to be that. I think you're going to see an XFL conference and a USFL conference, and they're going to play at the same time, and they're going to meet in a championship game, and then they'll reconfigure from there if they want to, or they'll stick with that, because both leagues do have a very good brand, a distinct flavor to their game. The XFL is a little bit more wide open, a little bit more passing. The USFL is a ground and pound. Lines are dominant line play. At the end of the day, when I look at it, the USFL has better line play. The XFL has better skill position players and quarterbacks. And that's what I keep coming back to across the board. I think that's where the line is. And I think that's just because the USFL lines got to play together for 2 years with minimal rotation out.
I think also, I thought the USFL had much better coaching. It seemed like the XFL kind of did the popularity, like the popular name Rod Woodson, who, I grew up loving, but I'm saying like he had no real coaching credentials, in my opinion, to be like just thrown there, where the USFL might have been better at player development because of the coaches they hired. Regardless, I'm not here to dispute that, because that was just my personal opinion on it. Yeah. But I think that'd be pretty fascinating if you if you're playing at Aldi Field in DC, you got to do the USFL rules. I'm sorry, the XFL rules. And then if you're at that would make it kind of interesting. I saw Jamar Smith and I saw a couple other USFL players tweet out though, yeah, we welcome this, but under our rules. And I mean, look, I think the USFL rules are better personally, but not every rule. I don't like the touchback rule in the USFL, as far as if you fumble the ball out of bounds, it goes back to the spot. You know what I mean? But I also know that I'm in the minority, I feel like, in that argument. So I that's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. And they said there could be a report done by the end of this week.
I mean, so what the guy who's plugged in, what I saw from the guy who knows the USFL Players Union is it's a 50-50 split in ownership, that the CBA, that the conversations has been very good across the board. The USFL has been working with the union, which means I think all the XFL players are going to get absorbed into the USFL union, which will be good for the players, and that they're just going to expand that relationship, and that the CBA is going to be revisited post-merger in October, November. So everything sounds positive about this, that it's a merger of equals, 50-50, 16 teams. That's that. And then if you want to get really weird, Colby, if we're going down the spring football rabbit hole, you know what Hal Mummy's doing these days?
I saw Rolovich was on board with this too, but he dipped and took the Sea Dragons OC spot. But tell the listeners about, I know a little bit about this, but tell the listeners about what you're
Hal
talking about.
Mummy is involved in the International Football Alliance, which boasts teams in America and Mexico. And according to the IFA Twitter, quote, "We want them to merge." Is this going to get interesting? And we're going to see the International Football Alliance come into this with some Mexico teams and give us an international flair. Are they going to serve as a minor developmental league for this new spring league? There are 1,000,001 ways. And don't forget, we have the expanded IFL, which has a direct partnership with the XFL already. I would imagine that stays in place, which means there's a single A to the AA of the XFL and USFL.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden we're building what we've been missing, an American football pyramid, which is going to be great for the game of football. It's going to be fantastic for the game of football.
Amen, folks. And if you don't know Hal Mummy, he created the air raid offense with Mike Leach. So, it's hard to watch a football game in 2023 without seeing their innovation on a football field. I don't care if it's NFL. I don't care if it's D3 high school. You see that everywhere. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. You see it absolutely everywhere. And the chat's saying, I think we get USFL rules with XFL kickoff. I hope that's not the case because I've been lobbying for the NFL to change their rules to the USFL kickoff. Cause I mean, how many great returns did we have in the USFL this past year or the year prior with Kevontae Turpin? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, we're going to have a lot of time to talk about this. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions, but before I do that, I want to tell you folks out there that this podcast is brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets. Yes, win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. And look, you can enter any parlay idea into the Hall of Fame Bets revolutionary parlay optimizer tool to get your hit rates broken down leg by leg on your parlay, as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by the hit rate, and for any bet, essentially, to learn which players are hot and which are not, and which are value picks. Stop betting in the dark. Join over 30,000 users with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com. Use that promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes, Underdog Fantasy has a way to play alongside your favorite football team all season long. You can win up to 20 times the amount of money you enter in a single game by going 5 for 5. It is a fantasy game, but you can win real money, people. So watch along, make your picks, and maybe make a little extra cash over on Underdog's mobile app or their website, underdogfantasy.com. When you sign up, make sure you use the promo code SGPN because Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code SGPN. All right, wait. So we're back and we're talking about this. We're trying to digest this because I'm like, wait a second here. You got two Houston teams. The first thing I think of is, there's the Houston Roughnecks and the Houston Gambler. Now, Houston is a big enough city to actually have two. There's like 3 or 4 cities in America, as you saw with the Jets, the Giants, the Mets, the Yankees. You got like LA, New York, and maybe Houston that I actually think, or Chicago. Those 4, I feel like you could actually have 2 franchises. I still think it'd be a little weird, but what do you make of the Gamblers and the Roughnecks? If they can't move my Gamblers, man. It's got to be the Roughnecks if they're going to move.
I think
they
right? got to keep the Gamblers because the Gamblers are probably the most recognizable spring football brand right now, purely from a name standpoint. Also, if you're going to be a league that emphasizes gambling, I don't know that you can bounce the team that's titled the Gamblers. Yeah. And it feels like it's better. It just feels like a much better, it feels like a much better fit for them. And, the Roughnecks are kind of in a gray area because they played last year at Tedesco and they can't play at Tedesco this year. So the Roughnecks are homeless again. Yeah. So what I think is I'll let you jump in. Then I want to talk about what we think should happen.
Yeah. Well, look, I know the USFL bought the naming rights for a lot of their old franchises, right? Mm-hmm. I think the Denver Gold, they bought the Oakland Invaders, the LA Express, the Washington Federals. I almost think they got almost all of them. I'm not sure if they got the Gunslingers, but they got a lot of them. I wonder, since they have access, since they have those copyrights, do they take, and also, Las Vegas, the Vipers they were at Cashman Field. It was a fucking disaster. So they are looking, I've heard reports that they're no longer going to be in Vegas. I got no idea if, since the XFL is this a 50-50 split, do the XFL relocate? And, I know they have the LA Wildcats still. Do they try to find one of their own old names that they still own? Or would the USFL say, hey, you can use our name here with the Oakland Invaders? I don't know, but I'm curious your thoughts on perhaps that, and if so, what cities make the most sense? And I guess I'm asking you a lot of questions at once here, but I'm saying let's get to Vegas. Let's get to Vegas in a second. Let's just talk about where the Roughnecks would go then.
So I think there's a very clear option here. Oil is prominent in 2 states in America in the continental 48, Texas and Oklahoma. And Oklahoma has one major league sports franchise.
And
there is a lovely city there where it's inland, but damn if there's not some hurricanes coming through. A nice 30,000 seat football stadium in the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Nice and centrally located.
Chapman Stadium. I know about this stadium.
Located centrally in the state of Oklahoma, so OKC can come up. It's not in Texas. You're tapping into an emerging market. Tulsa's a growing city. Oklahoma's a growing state. 30,000 is a great size for spring football. I think no spring football stadium should be bigger than 50,000, and a lot of them should be around that 30,000 mark. So if I'm this new league, I'm moving the Roughnecks to Tulsa.
I love that idea.
The Oklahoma Roughnecks.
I love that idea mainly because one of the things, like when they were here in LA and I went to XFL games, saw the Wildcats, and I hope they have a team, but I also think LA is more of a fan base that gets on board with what's popular. Right. So Oklahoma, to me, like you mentioned, they only have one pro team, the Thunder. And guess what? That's like one of the best fan bases in the whole entire NBA. So to me, it makes a lot of sense. If you watch the Oklahoma college football scene, they sell out their games. I think they would be more successful in Oklahoma than trying a gigantic city, perhaps. So, I love that idea. Now let's get to the Vegas Vipers one, because I'm very intrigued here.
And then there's a part 2 to this with the Gamblers. Get out of Tedecchio, play at the MLS Stadium, play at Shell Energy.
100%. They should.
It's right in downtown. Like, you can't have a stadium not in downtown.
They need to work with the MLS here, because I feel like when I went and caught the Wildcats, it was out here in Long Beach, or right outside of Long Beach. And they were playing at the stadium the Chargers played at for a little bit. It's the MLS stadium, essentially. I forget the name of it. It's like the Health Club or something. Dignity Health. That was an awesome experience because of how intimate it was. You were very close to the field. There is something about that. You see it with the DC Defenders fan base. I got plenty of friends. I grew up in the DC area. I haven't been to a DC Defenders game, but a lot of my friends have, and they say some of it like it more than going to FedEx and seeing the Washington team, because it's so far out. And then when you get there, you're so far back, you don't have as intimate of an experience. So I think they should target as many MLS stadiums as possible.
Also, one more feather in the Tulsa cap. In 2022, Tulsa was the 3rd best media market for USFL viewership.
Oh, they got to go. That makes sense.
They got to go. They got to go.
They got to go. It makes sense. And that stadium's classic too. That's a really good football stadium, H.A. Chapman. Vegas though. See, this is where you can have
they got to leave Vegas.
I agree. But here's where it gets tricky though, because you have the LA Wildcats, which, LA just has so many humans in the city. It does make sense from that point of view. But also, you have San Diego they've stole a franchise. The San Diego fans are thirsty, right? You also have Oakland, that every team in Oakland is all of a sudden departing, right? And they have the rights to the Invaders. San Diego, I think you'd probably have to just call them the San Diego Wildcats or the LA Wildcats. I don't know.
No. You're bringing up the wrong league's IP there, Colby. There was a great team that played in San Diego in 2019.
Oh, I'm on board.
The San Diego Fleet, baby. Bring back the Fleet.
Like that.
Let's go.
I wonder what that would cost. I mean, does the AAF still hold their rights?
I think somebody owns them.
But how much would that cost? Can't cost too much, right?
It's not going to cost that much at all.
Yeah.
The other option is I would love a San Diego team. I think San Diego would be a great location, and I think playing at the San Diego State Stadium is a phenomenal option because, again, it's in that correct size. It's 100% not too big. And that's the thing that I think we've learned is, like, they got to get out of that stadium at Arlington. That is a disaster. They need to get out of there as fast as they can because it just looks so bad.
But there's that blew my mind because I am familiar with that part of Texas. There's a lot of football options. You know what I mean? Cashman Field was terrible, but like Texas, you have options. Vegas, you don't. But San Diego, let me just throw this out there, and this is going to sound a little cheesy. San Diego Bolts, not the Colts. The Bolts. You took the Chargers. We're going to give you the Bolts back in San Diego.
They own the XFL IP. And don't forget, there was in 2001 the Birmingham Thunderbolts.
Oh, please. Let's go. Let's go.
One other option here. If we're talking about top USFL media markets and top XFL media markets, number 5 in the XFL last year, and number 4, I believe it was, number 5 in the USFL in 2022, Albuquerque, New Mexico. There's a little outfit there called New Mexico State that has a lovely 42,000 seat stadium that I think would be divine for spring football. Not too hot yet out in New Mexico in the spring. Not too hot yet.
And I think this is a great blueprint because, and I like this idea too, because, I know if you watch a New Mexico football game, their fan base hasn't been amazing, but they've been so bad. Here's how I know it works is because Rocky Long used to coach there in the 90s and the early 2000s, and they would sell that shit out. Another thing is when I watch New Mexico basketball games, that is one of the best fan bases in America for their basketball games. They don't have a pro team. I am on board that I think these markets, giving a shot to these markets, make a lot more sense than loading up a gigantic city. As much as I live in LA. I would be, if a team came to LA, I'm going to be there all the time. But I'm just saying it makes a little bit more sense to me to try to find these areas where it's like, hey, if you give them a shot, people want to root for something, and they don't really have, a pro team. So I think it makes a lot of sense. This is all hilarious to me. So I wonder, do you think in the coming week when they do announce something, if we think this is a slam dunk, if it's wrapped up, I don't think they're going to give us the rules yet though. I think they're just going to say,
no, we're not.
Yeah,
we're going to get, if they get this wrapped up by the end of next week, they'll get us a schedule for the year before the end of October. They'll let us know what this is going to look like by the end of October. And that's what I'm most hopeful for, because I think they're going to need to move some teams around, and they're going to need to decide real quick if they're going to send some teams to some cities, which I think they will. I don't think you're going to have half your teams playing in a hub and the other half not. I don't think you're going to make 4 of your teams play in a hub when you're going to make the other 12 not. So I think we might get some more relocation as well. I could see, I've been in on this, they need to get into markets for the USFL. I could even see a New Jersey Philly hub that makes sense at something like Franklin Field or at Princeton.
Franklin Field's like my favorite stadium. Yeah, that would be
Franklin's
amazing.
just really big. It's 52,000. It's very large, but it would be very
so historic. People don't know the history of that.
And scenic. So you could talk me into the Stars and Generals playing out of there. And I think you're going to change the name of the Maulers to the Ohio Maulers, and they're going to stay in Canton because that's a beautiful stadium. Pittsburgh has a problem. Pittsburgh has a giant stadium, and then it has Duquesne. Yeah. And it has Highmark, which is a 7,000 seat thing. It's just absolutely brutal. Like, there's not much you can do in Pittsburgh, unfortunately. So I think you're going to see them relocate and take up the Ohio mantle, which I think will help them in Ohio.
Can we talk about the elephant in the room getting out of Ford Field, where that thing is so big, you're never going to pack it?
I know, but it's brutal because it goes back to, you love the Michigan Panthers brand. It might be the second most recognizable brand in spring football.
Eastern Michigan's field, or any of those, play it, the MLS, any smaller one, because that thing is
there
never
an MLS stadium up there.
I thought I looked this up. I'd have to do a deep dive again, but I thought during the season I looked this up, and I thought there was, if not an MLS, then another soccer stadium. But I can tell you, Ypsilanti is only like 30 minutes from Detroit, and Eastern Michigan Stadium you could play at. In fact, I want to say one of the other leagues has played there. The original World League, your jersey, the WFL played there. The Detroit Wheels.
I mean, I know that. Yeah.
But there's options. There's got to be options in Detroit. There's got to be. You could build a stadium for like 10 G's. All right.
there is Keyworth Stadium, but it's only 7,000. That's the problem. It's just a little small.
But Ypsilanti is not that far, dude. If people are going to make it, like, it still could be Detroit. It still could be first off, they're called the Michigan. Yeah.
Ypsilanti is good. You're just then you have to you're playing on gray turf, and that might look odd, but it's going to look good.
I wonder if they can pay for that though. I wonder if they could pay for that change. How hard is it to paint the turf differently for 6 months? How expensive is that?
I don't know. It's more expensive than you think. It's more expensive than you think. I got this number. At one point, during my Major League Football adventures, I got told what the number was to have the field painted. Really? And that was just to do lining and paint the end zones and logos. And that was like not incredibly high where I was shocked, but if you're going to repaint the whole thing green, that's going to be expensive.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe there's some options, but I want to address this. Shout out to the chat. They're rolling along. And folks, remember, you can watch this on YouTube at any of our accounts here at SGPN, whether it's alt fantasy, whether it's USFL gambling, whether it's XFL gambling, we got you covered at SGPN. This is a good question though. Vincent in the chat says, 17-week regular season start February, end 4th of July. I do love the championship game on 4th of July weekend idea. Mm-hmm. Now the question is, and this is one that I know we right before we hit record, we're like, I wonder how they're going to do it because, you have obstacles, a lot of obstacles here. You have, if you start the week after the Super Bowl, which I kind of love that you just don't miss any football.
Because there's no other sports. It's a dead zone. There's college basketball.
Yeah, college basketball is starting to heat up as far as television rating wise, right? So end of February, early March starts to that journey into March Madness, where the XFL did get killed ratings wise a year ago during those weeks where March Madness was going on. You have that obstacle. Then you have the obstacle of. You have, I think, the second week in April is the Masters, right?
Yep.
Where the USFL waits to kick their season off to the week after that. I do believe that's on purpose. Then you have once you get into May, the NHL and NBA playoffs happening at that time, and let alone the beginning of Major League Baseball. Now, XFL and USFL went up against all of that and did fairly well, but is there a strategy that makes more sense? Forever. I mean, my own brother, we've argued about this. He thinks they should go more into July because July is kind of dead because the NHL and NBA end in June. So in July, you just have MLB, and that's logical. It makes sense.
But then you compete with there's nice weather. There's nice
vacation
weather. People
time.
are getting
Vacation
out
time.
Yeah. And I think that's why in February and March they do so well. And I think it's really important that they hit it hard in February and March, because if they hit it hard in February and March, they can build some really good weightings. It'll taper off a little bit during March Madness, but then everybody will get right back into it when the playoffs come. And now all of a sudden you've got interesting playoff races with 16 teams instead of trying to, create some manufactured thing where the two worst teams are playing in week 10 and it's like the winner gets the number one pick. That doesn't actually matter. It's like you need some actual drama in this league instead of just manufactured.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I do think it's an interesting thing that they're going to have to get creative around. I've always said this, play more weeknights, because on a Saturday and Sunday, that's when the NBA and NHL load up on their slates. If we know March Madness does Thursday through Sunday, right?
Mm-hmm.
During those 2 weeks, why don't you play a couple more Monday night games? I think your ratings will go up.
Play 8, just stack Monday nights, 8 games.
I mean, dude,
Monday
it's
night
not that
games during
crazy
March
of an
Madness.
idea. It's not, get creative with, like, if you know March Madness is, you have to look and where the events are held, right? Like, you have to look at the time zone thing. Maybe you play a Sunday night game if you know all of March Madness is ending a little earlier. Maybe you play a Sunday night game in San Diego or wherever you land your franchise. But I can tell you this: when it gets to May and you're battling with the NBA and NHL playoffs, I think they load up on Saturday and Sunday. They'll do like triple headers. I think you try to get creative, do a Thursday night game, Friday night game. You know what I mean? CFL does a good job, actually. CFL does a really good job of.
I think they can go head to head with the NBA and NHL. I think they.
I think they can too. I think they can too.
They can go. I think you load up those days and you roll out spring football red zone, and you just let
now you're talking.
You pull. You just unload there. You're just like, yeah. Or you do a mega cast again where it's 8 games and you're like, yeah, screw basketball. You get 7 hours of commercial free football with spring football. All 8 games playing, 4 in the early window, 4 in the late window, and just smash it.
Yeah. Let me ask you that too. Like, the USFL is kind of all in one time zone for the most part. I feel like it's one or 2 time zones. The XFL's got 3 of their 8 teams in Texas. Do you think we relocate a lot of these? If you're going to have 16 teams, do you try to touch each part of the United States?
I think my biggest candidates for relocation, we talked about it. I think the Houston Roughnecks and the Arlington Renegades are at the top of my list to relocate from.
But they'd have to go to Pacific. Like, the Pacific time zone only has Seattle, right?
It only has Seattle. Yeah. So, and in the USFL and obviously the Vegas Vipers. So I got 3 relocations from the XFL. And then I've got, big relocations. I think we need to move the Breakers. I don't think that's going to work in New Orleans because you're going to play at Tulane or you're going to play in an empty Superdome. That ain't going to happen.
I'll say this, though. As someone that's been down to Louisiana a decent amount of times, they love football. Now, I don't know what the best blueprint is. Maybe it's to move to Baton Rouge. And I'm not talking about LSU's 100,000. I'm talking about the University of Southern, right? I'm just saying, like,
I think they go to Yeoman at Tulane before they go to the University of Southern Louisiana.
I'd be interested to see, though, because they love football. I don't know what I would love to see them instead of Birmingham. Just give them a year in New Orleans just to see how that turnout is, because I think they love football more than most states. If that makes sense.
They do. But spring football doesn't always have a good carryover with traditional football fans. You need to find offbeat football fans. You need to go outside the box. You need some weirdos. And Colby,
what are you proposing? Nebraska?
You're a student. No. We're gonna get weirder, Colby. What's one of the weirdest cities you can think of?
Oh, well, I mean, Portland's a little weird.
Who played in Portland?
The Breakers did. The Breakers did.
So
that would make
sense.
There's
a lovely 25,000 seat stadium called Providence Park in Portland that the Portland Timbers fans pack out.
Oh, they are legit fans there too. They are legit fans there. Luis says, "Am I the only one in the chat?" No, we got a lot of people in the chat.
Luis, I think the thing that's throwing you off is we have this chat running on 3 different YouTubes. So people might be on different YouTube chats. I don't know if they cross over between the feeds because we wanted to make sure we got to everybody. So, but I could see them putting a team in Portland. Portland would be a great location. It's offbeat. It's another emerging. You want to get into emerging media markets without football. And so Portland,
they would have that rivalry with Seattle.
So now you've got 3 West Coast teams. If you put a team in San Diego, and you still obviously you need a home for the Renegades, you could put a 4th team somewhere else in California as well, or you could go to Albuquerque as well. So you have options. So you could have 4 teams on the West Coast then, which would really drive that regionality and make this more of a national thing. The big thing for the combined league is going to be go where there's not teams, or follow the XFL blueprint of go to places that lost their team. So San Diego and Oakland should 100% be on the
considered. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I would even say, as someone that covers college football nonstop, TV execs are starting to rule how college football realignment goes. Right. And look, I could talk shit about it, but it's just the reality of what is happening. That's what makes me believe that they would move to time zones, not necessarily like, I don't think they would necessarily care if, I mean, yes, theoretically you want to make the most money possible with ticket sales and stuff, but if the TV execs are in charge, we've seen this crazy realignment in college football based on the time zones. The reason why Stanford and Cal have been terrible, they're in the ACC because the ACC has a contract with ESPN, and they say we need night content on the West Coast, right? So that's where I think they would try to divide it up equally to time zones. Maybe I'm a maniac, maybe that's down the road, but I think that might be a role in what they try to do, especially with this strike going on.
Yeah. And SPHL Rando brought up a good point that when New Orleans will 100% work, Shine Park would be more interesting to me if it didn't feel like a slightly large Cashman. It's 10,000 seats. It looks a little better, but it's still a minor league baseball park that isn't going to be good for football. It's hard to put a football field into a baseball stadium and have it look good and feel good. They might have done they did some retrofitting for pro rugby. I don't want to see them do this wrong again with a stadium. And so New Orleans it feels iffy to me because I think Tulane Stadium and Yeoman or Southern are both good sized stadiums, but I just think it's going to be hard to put the breakers in New Orleans. I could also see if you don't go to Portland, you could go the other way and you could go to a place like Newport News and Virginia Beach, where you have in a large metropolitan area with no football. I just don't know if you steal DC Defenders fans. And of course, selfishly, I would love a Carolina team. Bring it to Charlotte, play at Richardson Stadium, give it a reason to expand. Let's go.
I mean, I think Charlotte or Raleigh would both be on the table because Raleigh's got they played in the World League in '91. The Raleigh Durham Skyhawks played at Carter Finley.
Bring back the Skyhawks, baby.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Carter Finley might be a little big. I want to be very in this. They need to be very careful about the size of the stadium that they're going into, because I think what really hurt the XFL and USFL is empty stadiums. There's nothing that makes you feel like the games are exciting. The games are good, but nobody's in the stands. So it feels dead. There's no energy.
Yeah. I mean, one of the classic things is like, this happens all the time in LA. Back when I was younger and I would go out to go out on the town, right? You'd see a club with this gigantic line out the door and everyone wanted to go to this club, even though they're purposely keeping the line there, even though it's not that busy inside. Right. And that's what they need to like. I don't care if you only have a 10,000 foot or 20,000 seat stadium, right? If people are missing out on the action, you worry about that problem later. The demand for that will be the buzz that moves around town. They'll say, "Oh, you got to go there. You got to go." I thought the Defenders did a great job of kind of doing that. A lot of my friends wanted to go to those games where there's a buzz around DC about going to a Defenders game. So pay attention to that. I'm completely on board. I actually think that's their biggest problem is stadiums. And I'm not even talking, I'm anti-dome, but I'm talking in general. Do not play at an NFL stadium because they're too fucking big. You know what I mean?
No, it looks so empty. Don't play in a converted baseball stadium. The sight lines are bad. It looks like they're a million miles away. And maybe you don't do Carter Finley. Maybe what you do is something like Wallace Wade Stadium.
Oh yeah.
Or Truist Field for Wake Forest.
Yeah.
Truist Stadium for A&T might be a little small, but you have some options out there in the Triangle, and I'll go to the Triangle for a game. I'd be happy to go.
Oh yeah.
Charlotte shrunk down American Legion, which would have been the greatest. If American Legion was still at its old 20,000, there would be nothing better than playing in a classic horseshoe with the horseshoe opens right up onto the Charlotte skyline. It would just be gorgeous.
Well, Richardson Stadium you mentioned, but also I know that I think starting next year, and I'd have to do a quick Google on this, but I believe Davidson University is building their new stadium right now. I saw a video, I think this off season, of the construction. Wait, is Davidson's Richardson Stadium, right? Davidson's Richardson's. Hold on. So
I don't think they're going to expand it to be big enough. They're both Richardson Stadium.
Okay, there's two Richardson Stadiums. I'm confused because I was like,
yes, there's two Richardson Stadiums in Charlotte. UNCC's is currently, and they're planning to expand it. I don't think Davidson is going to be big enough even after the expansion. I think it's still going to be sub 20,000.
Interesting. Yeah, they are a private school, so that might make sense. And I know their enrollment isn't. But I thought they were adding. See, $55 million they're adding into the stadium. I wonder what they're trying to get this thing at. I'm reading an article right now, but regardless, I think that that's something they need to do is target those stadiums, because that is a big point. And if TV execs are in charge, I actually believe one of the worst things you can do for your TV product is be at those gigantic stadiums. I think that people are turned off by that. If you can have it small, intimate crowds, who cares about the price of the ticket in town if fans are missing out on it because your capacity is limited? Okay, worry about that problem later. Build it. You know what I mean? And I think that's the correct way to do it. Any other things you want to tackle, Adam, on this fine episode?
Any XFL, USFL executives watch this, let me give you one quick elevator speech for why you need to put a team in Rochester, New York. Because we got a lovely stadium there, about 15,000, little small, but it's going to be intimate. Okay. Got a nice view of the skyline, pro built, not a lot of miles on it because we lost our soccer team. Greatest tragedy in American sports history. Up there, top 5, right up there with the stealing of the Browns, the Rams leaving St. Louis and the Chargers leaving San Diego, is the Rochester Rhinos leaving Rochester and dying. 15,000 rabid, passionate, upstate New York fans. Great branding available. Buy the Rochester Rhinos trademark. Put it there. It'll be a blast. We'll tailgate the hell out of it. It'll be the DC It'll be the stadium the DC Defenders want to have.
Hey, folks, look, I'm on board with that. Let's go. That's what's cool too. And I've argued this with Patty C here in the studio. Like, I would love to see them buy some other, like, I've always thought the Iowa Barnstormers should be out of the Arena League and playing in like a real, like, this is the opportunity. Iowa Barnstormers, the uniforms, the name, it's fantastic. Come on, go get the Iowa Barnstormers, folks. Folks, subscribe to us. We're part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Obviously, like I said, Adam's the managing editor. I do a ton of different work, and since we're promoting so many different podcasts, I'm not going to tell you I'll talk for 10 minutes. Follow this one, and this one. But we are part of the Sports Gambling Podcast. We host the alt fantasy podcast, the XFL gambling podcast, the USFL gambling podcast. Check those all out. We'll have you covered. Any news that comes out, even if it's an official report, me and Adam love this stuff, and J Mark as well. Some of our other friends in this, we love football. So we're going to try our best to bring you the news as it happens.
And just remember, 16 teams will be great for your spring fantasy football league. Fantasy sports is excited. I had to pick up the AAF helmet bumper collection and start, getting ready, getting hyped for it. One of my favorite collector's items here. If anyone comes across an Express or Apollos, please let me know.
Adam sent me
my collection.
Adam sent me an awesome gift over the past couple weeks. It was a Washington Federals ball. Now, look, I would even make this argument. Now, I know they have a great thing. Gosh, I love the Feds name. The Washington Feds, those old uniforms. I know the Defenders have built something in DC, but damn it, couldn't they stay interested in us turn the name to the Feds? I don't know, but because I know they've built something, I almost don't want to touch it.
Defenders is a really good name, and that's the problem. It's like, that's a brand you can't mess with. They're probably, everybody wants to be the DC Defenders and the St. Louis Battlehawks. You can't touch those teams.
Baltimore Defenders, Washington Federals.
You can't move them. Audie's been a great partner. Audie's a great atmosphere.
That's been the diamond in the rough. I feel like that with the lemons and the beer snakes. It's just that whole crowd has been fantastic. But anyway,
if the USFL can convince the XFL to cheapen their pricing a little bit, because that was the big thing, was the XFL had higher price tickets. Bring those ticket prices down a little bit, and those stadiums are going to be packed. The environment's going to be so much better.
Oh, it's got me excited,
folks. I'm not going to sleep. I'm going to be planning out what this looks like in my sleep tonight.
Yes. There we go, folks. That's how much we love it. Give Adam a follow on Twitter here, or X, or whatever the hell they're calling it these days. At Adam Pelletier. You'll see it if you're watching on YouTube right now. That's ADAMPELLETIER. I'm on Twitter at the Colby D. And all of our podcasts are on Twitter too. I mean, I'm not going to rattle them all off, but they're there. All right. If you're watching on YouTube, you see them. But yeah, we're going to bring you the news as we have it, folks. Check out the Sports Gambling Podcast as they go through every NFL game. Cover every NFL game. I host the College Football Experience. Check out that as well. Every college football game, even the FCS. I host the FCS College Football Experience as well. We got you covered on football, pretty much. When it comes to the SGPN, we got you covered on football. So check us all out, and download the SGPN app. It's free to download in the App Store and Google Play Store. And look, maybe you have an opinion about this. Maybe you think, Colby, you're an idiot. We should do this rule. Or Adam, no, I'm telling you, this city's a better idea. Well, hop in the Discord and tell us. All right, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. We encourage that. So do that. And folks, until next time, this is the Spring Football Podcast. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here. Run and shoot. We can really run and shoot. And the whole team's looking at the whole world's looking with the gamblers. Run and shoot. We can really run and shoot. And you know what you're getting, 'cause the books we written with a game.